Everdark, Episode 75, A Million Little Pieces. Last on Everdark, Daemon stews as he fears Julian will choose to become human again, now that he knows Armageddon can change him back. Decisions regarding what will happen to the former vampires are made. Arceus is to re-establish the Order, and Seer must be fed. The elevator in the spire ran without electricity from what Julian could see. The glass car silently and swiftly soared upwards. Julian craned his neck so that he could see where they were going. The spire's interior reminded him of a seashell as it spiraled upwards. The pale white stone was similar to bone, so it did seem like they were traveling through some strange beast's skeleton.
How many rooms are in this place?
Julian asked. Over 1,000. I have not seen all of them. This was Seer's domain, and she kept many wonders here that she found in her explorations of the Everdark. Daemon answered.
Really? Like what kind of things? Did the Immortals come from the Everdark? I mean, is this your home planet?
Julian turned around to face the Vampire King. Daemon was leaning against the far wall of the elevator. He had been quiet as Julian took in the world of Everdark. Julian occasionally felt flashes of pleasure and an almost indulgent fondness from the Vampire King. But Daemon's deeper feelings and thoughts were hidden from him. Yet there were flickers of almost a sense of fear coming from Daemon, and he'd never experienced true fear from the Vampire King. He wanted to talk to Daemon about it, but they'd been with people or crazy things had been happening. Now they were alone, but he was finding it hard to begin this. It was easier to ask other questions. No. This is not our home planet. This is not even our home plane, Daemon answered with an almost teasing smile on his lips. This world's more intelligent inhabitants were long gone when we got here. We built our cities and then delved into theirs. Many magic things we found. Many dark things, too.
That sounds fascinating. I'd love to go adventuring out there.
Julian admitted. We will. We will do all you desire. Daemon's gaze, though, was troubled. Julian shifted from foot to foot.
Why is he blocking our bond and not letting me know what he's thinking? What's displeasing him so much?
He experienced a guilty start.
Was it because I questioned him in front of others about the fates of his enemies? Our enemies, really. I want him to be happy, but I have my own mind. But he's the king. I understand that better now.
He was about to open his mouth to say something, anything. But the elevator car slowed to a stop, and the crystalline doors silently opened to reveal a circular throne room. Julian's eyebrows rose as he took in the beautiful marble floor, inlaid with lapis lazuli and other precious stones. The walls of the room were sliding glass doors that curved in a perfect circle. There was a vast balcony outside of those doors, many of which were open. A cool breeze caused the white shears to flutter in the wind. But it was the throne that amused Julian and captured most of his attention. He headed over to it, letting out a laugh.
Whoa, looks like Daemon is into royal power too. He's got a throne. Or is this one of yours that he's stole and repurposed? Doesn't look much like you, though.
The throne was high-backed, inset with more precious metals and stones, a massive seat and broad arms. It reminded him very much of some Renaissance seat for a king. It definitely wasn't Daemon's style, and it didn't fit with the room's rather simple interior.
Tacky and ostentatious. Daemon didn't want anyone to forget that he was the head guy around here.
Julian thought.
I bet he sat in it and smiled in that satisfied, oily way of his. Yeah, he would definitely imagine how powerful he is in this thing.
He cast a look over his shoulder at Daemon, who had trailed much more slowly after him. Daemon had a faint smile on his lips, but he was clearly distracted. Daemon's assumption of power seemed unimportant. That surprised Julian. He thought that Daemon would take joy in sending this monstrosity over the balcony railing.
He's really upset about something. I have to find out why and apologize if it is something I've done. Better to take the bull by the horns. Hey, what's going on? You've been acting funny since you defeated everybody.
Julian straightened and went over to Daemon. He put his hands on Daemon's broad shoulders, relishing the muscle beneath the soft fur coat.
You should be celebrating, even though it was over before it began.
Should I be celebrating? Daemon asked back, his red eyes searching Julian's face, but there was no accompanying touch of his mind.
Should you? Of course. You protected everybody. And now I guess you get to determine if any of them get to be vampires again.
Julian stated with a shrug.
I'm sure you'll have many of them begging to serve you, and…
You think being a vampire is worth begging for? Daemon crossed his arms at the wrists behind his back.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that they will.
Not them. You. Do you think being a vampire is valuable? Daemon pressed. He held himself so stiffly that he looked like he might break.
Being a vampire is… it's amazing.
Julian shook his head in confusion. Even though you were brought into this dark world through violence, pain, and betrayal, Daemon's red eyes were fixed upon him. Though there were only a few feet between them, it felt like miles.
It doesn't matter how it all began. What matters is now. I love it now. I wouldn't trade my life now for anything.
Julian assured him.
But seriously, what's wrong? Why are you acting like you're in mourning? Are you worried about Seer? Are you upset about those people almost attacking us?
Daemon's mouth opened, but no words came out for half a minute. Finally, the Vampire King rasped out, "Do you want to become human again? Do you want to leave me?" Julian was stunned into silence, which had Daemon going paler. He shook himself.
What are you talking about? Why would I want to become human again?
Why? Why would you want to? I do not know. I just need to know if you do. Daemon let out a bark of laughter that almost sounded like a sob. He looked away from Julian's face, staring out one of the doors to see the night sky of the Everdark. His emotions and feelings were still partially hidden, but Julian could sense them. They were roiling. But whatever had been obsessing Daemon before was broken. The largest feeling the Vampire King had was relief. He'd never seen Daemon so raw before. It was unnerving. Even though he was touched that Daemon allowed him to see it. You were not even thinking about it. You were not even considering it. And here I was, afraid.
Armageddon, of course. You thought I wanted you to turn me human again? No, not at all, never.
Julian shook his head vociferously.
Why would I…
Daemon crushed Julian to him, which caused all the air to be squeezed out of his lungs. The Vampire King eased his hold, but only a little. Julian wrapped his arms around Daemon too, and rested his cheek against the Vampire King's shoulder. In amazement, Julian asked,
You really thought that I would want that? That I would want to leave you? Why? I'm yours.
Daemon's laughter. It was rich and deep, but held a note of almost hysteria to it, interrupted his questions and that simple last statement. You are mine, mine. I do not know what I thought. Julian pulled back to regard that beautiful face.
You thought I would want to go back to my old life? Never.
Was your old life so bad? I thought you enjoyed it. Daemon was squeezing him tightly.
There were a lot of things I loved about it, but I was driven by loss, Daemon. My only goal in life was revenge on vampires.
Julian shook his head.
Revenge is not something you want to live for. Believe me. It's empty and horrible in its own way. If not for Christian, I don't think I would have made it.
Do not say such a thing. Daemon's hold tightened even more.
Crushing me, Daemon. Crushing. That's better. Thank you. And forget about what I said before. You thought I wouldn't want to be with you for eternity? Are you crazy? Yes, you are crazy. I see that now.
He ran his hands through Daemon's thick locks. The Vampire King turned his head into the caresses so that he could kiss Julian's palms.
Yes, so crazy.
Some would say you are. Daemon's eyes hungrily roamed over his face, as if he wanted to imprint it upon himself. You sacrificed your mortal life for your friend, not for me. The two of you could undo the acts that made you vampires. You could be free.
Of you? Of Balthazar? Of all our friends? Before it was just Christian and me. We were seeking connections, answers. Now I have those answers. I also have completely different questions.
Julian grinned.
But now, I get to find out the answers to those with you and Christian and Balthazar and everybody. Not to mention, I now have eternity to do it. I'm not going to ever lose what I have now to the ravages of age and illness. I'm going to just get better.
Daemon smiled. and his eyes for a moment looked bright, but with tears. He looked outside again until he recovered. Yes, that is true. All true and so much more.
Basically, I get everything that was awesome about being human and get to keep it forever. Plus, there's you.
Julian let out an uncertain laugh. He had never cared to bring a lover into his life so completely before, but Daemon was the real mystery for him. Me? I see. I am a mystery for you to solve.
I doubt I'll solve you, but I'm going to enjoy trying.
Julian smiled brilliantly at him. There's darkness in this immortal life, you know. The things you have seen so far are mild. Daemon's expression was so serious.
I know.
Julian's head dipped down. Daemon tipped it back up again so that they were eye to eye. There are things I will have to do that will disturb and upset you. Julian's lips parted, but no words came out. Not at first.
I know that.
And there are things that I will need from you as well. Daemon's voice dropped towards a whisper. It was clear that he didn't want to say these things, but had to.
Just in case they'll change my mind about being a vampire. I have to stop questioning you.
Julian said. It is not the questioning. It is...
You have to be king.
Julian smiled. He pulled away and went over to the balcony. He stepped outside, and the wind caught him. It was so strong up here he thought that he might be lifted up and sent sailing away. He went to the railing and leaned on it. Daemon came up beside him. One hand slid along his back and rested on his spine. He was anchored. No matter how hard the wind blew, he would be safe here. You do not like killing, Daemon said simply. You think I treat life too cheaply. Julian reluctantly nodded.
You have all these powers that make death, so unnecessary.
Not completely. I am very powerful, yes. I can do miraculous things in your eyes, but even a small cut can bring down the mightiest person. Daemon answered him. I want you to consider this. I could have Eiros sweep through the minds of all those that would fight against me. He could tweak them just so. Daemon made a movement with his hand, a slight adjustment as if he were turning a dial.
Yeah, like he did with Lizette.
Except it would not have worked with Lizette long term, unless she accepted the feelings he placed inside of her. Daemon turned towards him. The red and blue moons shone down on his preternaturally beautiful face, and the fact that he was not human was so very obvious at that moment.
What would have happened to her if she hadn't accepted the things Balthazar implanted?
She would have gone mad. His suggestions would have continued to tear at what she really felt. He explained. This cognitive dissonance would have eventually worn her sanity away.
But what about Elena? He's going to take her memory of Heath and...
It is a punishment. Daemon interrupted him. If she becomes ill from it, well, that is what happens. Julian's mouth went dry.
She deserves that because of me?
Because of the fact that she would harm you. Not only because you have done nothing to her, but you are the fledgling of her king, and the friend of her lord. She broke all of that, all of those friendships, and all of that loyalty to hurt an innocent. Daemon's eyes blazed and his tone was intense. So no, it was not just because of you. She earned this punishment because of what it says about her.
But she is deeply in grief, and...
She is. But there are lines, and they must not be crossed.
If it was you, though, what would you have done? If someone hurt me? If someone killed me?
Would I have killed innocents to avenge you? Daemon's expression was so strange. I would destroy the whole world if someone took you from me. Julian gasped again. He couldn't even move. He was treasured, and it was terrifying. You do not want me to care for you so much. Daemon's voice was thick with emotion.
But I don't know if it should be worth so much. Death.
You are worth that and more. Daemon blinked and looked away. But if I did it to someone, to another vampire's fledgling, I should expect them to attack me, to try and give me a second death. For I would have earned it. Julian curled against the much larger body of the vampire king. The thought of anyone touching Daemon, trying to hurt Daemon, had his fangs coming out.
No. No one touches you. No one hurts you.
Daemon chuckled as his hands carded through Julian's hair. Oh, my sweet. You have a little predator in you too, I see. Julian twined his hands in Daemon's shirt. He could feel the hot, hard muscles beneath it.
I don't know what it is. I wanted to kill Kaemorn, and you wouldn't let me.
Because I saw that it would destroy you, Daemon answered. Julian gasped.
What? Destroy me? I know you said... I didn't realize it was so dark.
Yes, I foresaw it. I could not let you be hurt by it. Better to let Kaemorn keep his life instead of you being harmed by his second death. Daemon stroked him. That is the only reason. Do you think I care for Kaemorn? I think of him not at all. You are the only one that matters to me.
I think that's going to upset Kaemorn. He looks at you a little dreamy-eyed.
Julian snorted. I am well aware of his regard. I will use that for what we need, but that is all. He has a master. It is, sadly, one who does not value him.
Yet he's been so successful. Callie doesn't care?
Julian could only imagine how hard the world of vampires must be without a master to care for one. He would not wish that on anyone. But both Kaemorn and Balthazar had experienced just that. You feel pity for him. Daemon chuckled indulgently. Oh, my soft-hearted fledgling. You cannot even bear the thought of Kaemorn without a loving master.
I know how lucky I am, because I have you.
Daemon pressed his lips to Julian's head. It felt so good, so loving, so tender, so safe. This was not the edge of the knife they sometimes walked when the desire burned bright between them. It was the other, tender part that Julian had never really experienced before. Daemon hummed happily.
You were really worried that I want to be human again?
Julian confirmed. Yes, you are making me feel foolish. Daemon hummed happily again.
You should. You're the king. You can read my mind. But you were torturing yourself with thinking I didn't want to stay with you?
Julian tutted. Daemon let out a rumbly laugh. When you say it like that, it sounds incredibly self-indulgent.
I should feel good that you want me with you so much that you were afraid to know if I didn't want you, even if the odds were ridiculously low to, like, non-existent.
Julian grinned and buried his face against Daemon's chest. Daemon kissed and petted him. Happiness buzzed in the vampire king's mind. That had Julian realizing something.
Is that why Balthazar got so sour there? Is he afraid the Christian won't want to be his fledgling either?
Daemon paused, and he felt the vampire king's solidarity with Eiros.
Oh God, it totally is. You guys are hopeless romantics.
Julian groaned. I am quite logical and...
Not about this. You two are both ridiculous. I love it.
Julian hugged him more fiercely. Well, then I do not mind. Julian sighed.
Not to get serious again, but I've never been around killing, except for my parents, and that was devastating. I know what happens to those left behind, the pain of it. Even Kaemorn. It'd be one thing if I were to kill him to save myself or someone else, like in self-defense, but...
What if you knew killing him would save many lives? Not at this moment, but down the years, Daemon asked, easily sliding back into this philosophical conversation. Julian's mouth screwed up into a bitter smile.
But that's like the question, would you kill baby Hitler? Oh wait, you don't know who that is. Let's just say he was a monster. But let's say I had him in front of me. I would try to change Hitler so he wouldn't kill those other people.
You think people can be changed? Yes, I see you do. You think that the warp and weft of fate can be undone? I see you think that too. Daemon smiled at him.
You think I'm being naive about this?
Julian lifted an eyebrow. Idealism and naivety are often confused. I will just say that I am very jaded. He cupped Julian's face, his powerful hands gentle as the caress of the wind.
You've lived a long time, seen so much more than me.
Julian let out a huff.
I should defer to you.
The day that happens, I shall be very sad. Daemon chuckled.
What? You like me questioning you?
Yes, I do. You make me look at things in a new light, but...
Not in front of others.
Julian winced.
Yeah, I sort of got that afterwards down there. And before with Elena, and before that. Okay, I've got to be aware of myself.
You can question me over our connection. If you can keep your face from showing it. Daemon was grinning.
Christian says that I can't lie worth shit.
Julian shook his head and laughed.
Crap, I've got so much to learn. And I'd be excited for it, except for the fact that you have to deal with all my mistakes.
It's not a mistake for you to have empathy, and you can express it. You will be seen as the soft touch, while I am the hammer. That works often in ruling, Daemon told him.
But I have to do it in a way that doesn't undermine you.
Julian gritted his teeth.
I don't mean to. You know that, right?
Daemon caressed his cheeks. Of course, and so do those close around us.
But I'll figure this out. I'll be better, Daemon.
You are doing just fine. Daemon gazed at him with that deep affection. Better than fine. You are so amazing.
Would you still think I'm amazing if I asked to do one thing? You know, something that only the fledgling of the Vampire King could suggest and not get in trouble?
Julian asked. What? Oh. Daemon looked over at the ugly-ass throne.
Unless it's like some kind of heirloom, and we shouldn't do anything to it.
Julian said.
I might not want to kill Kaymorn, and I don't even want to make him unhappy. Much. But that throne.
Daemon grinned. The people at the bottom of the spire heard a mental command from the Vampire King to get out of the way, just before the Preceptor's throne came crashing down and shattered into 1,000,000 little pieces. Join us next time for episode 76, Destroyed.
This is the end of Volume 5 of Everdark, which means that members are finishing up Volume 6 in the private podcast feed. We could not do this without the support of our members and shop customers, because the money we use to pay these amazing voice actors comes directly from you. We will never have the backing of a big company like Netflix or Disney. There is no safety net for content creators like us. But on the other hand, it also means that we only have our audience to please. Consider supporting us by joining the membership for a few months or buying an audiobook from our shop. Links to those are in the notes.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing.